Hey, everybody. Thank you very much again for watching our videos. We're so happy to have you. Please remember to like our video if you're enjoying it and also to subscribe to our channel here at Gussy's Gut. I'm so happy to be here with Dr. Decaestecker,
Yes, right. Perfect.
but she likes to be called Dr. Juliet.
It's
So,
easier.
yes, it's easier. She's learned. And we are through this magic. We are talking from Colorado to Belgium,
Mhm.
and you're in the south of Belgium, like a little village in the south.
Yeah, a small little village in the south of Belgium, in the Belgian Ardennes, a little bit on the countryside. Yes.
Oh gosh, well it sounds like it's not beautiful at all, not
No,
even remotely.
no, people have to. You have to come to visit, Rob. Yeah, you have
Oh
to come.
well, I was saying to you a second ago, we briefly chatted that I had been through Belgium. It's super beautiful little country.
Hmm.
But it's tucked in with all these beautiful hills of France and everything. It's like it's mind blowing how amazing it is. Just like you can even have a really nice time sightseeing from a train.
Yeah, it is also, only like a 200 kilometers from one side to another. I actually met my husband in the south of Belgium and I'm from the north of Belgium. So, me being from the north of Belgium, coming to the south of Belgium even to study, that was like another country. And it is not even like, 150 kilometers apart. So, I actually went studying abroad in my own country. Yeah.
Wow. So here's what we're probably going to dive into today. So you're an author, you're a teacher of
Hmm.
veterinary acupuncture, you have a practice, a thriving practice, and you also do work with wildlife.
Hmm. I
And
did mostly on the trip when we were traveling.
yep,
So a little bit less now, but whenever there is an occasion, I'm called in. Yes.
wow. And obviously you're a world traveler, as many, it seems like many Europeans and also Australians and New Zealanders, they're very avid travelers, which I love way more than I think than Americans. Um, for whatever reason, it's just cultural, but it's so interesting to talk to you guys because you've got so much, you've been everywhere.
It's really nice, actually. I was actually happy because now it will be 3 years that I'm like a little bit more settled down in Belgium. Only 3 years that people say Juliet is back in Belgium. So before I was abroad all the time. And I have to say, I was happy to find in one little natural magazine that there's actually a gene. So it's actually in our DNA. I don't know if it's epigenetic or if it's genetic. Maybe we influence it by epigenetics, but there's a gene for a traveler. So I was happy to show my husband, see, we have to go, we have to move regularly.
Are you being are
So
you being funny, or is that true?
it's true. I have the article. It's in French, but it's there. That 20% of the population has that predisposition. There's a gene. I don't know. I don't remember
Wow.
the code name, but it should be there. It's there. Yeah.
Well, and there's a genetic thing with Europeans. Like certain Europeans have genetic. Like I get like nutrition IV therapy every once in a while, and
Hmm.
I get high dose vitamin C.
Perfect.
And you have to take a test before you get this high dose, because if you don't, you can die
Mm-mm.
if you have this wrong genetic thing, and it's a European descent thing.
Yeah.
And there's a few of those things, and they're I'm sure there's an Australian one, and I'm sure there's an American one. But all right, so let's dive in. So what first of all, my big question for you right now is, tell me what this thing is that is like world integrative veterinarian. Like, what does that you're a world integrative veterinarian from Belgium. So what does that mean? Hey there, this is Rob Ryan. I just want to say how much we enjoy making this content for you here. And if you are enjoying it, would you like our video down below? And would you subscribe to our YouTube channel? It sure does help us get discovered by more people like you who need information like this. And also, down below in our description, the top link is to our trial pack. We hope you'll order one for your dog so your dog can have fermented superfoods that give them nutrition like they can't find anywhere else. Hard to get nutrients that are easily absorbed. Thank you very much. Now back to the show.
I have to say integrative is the word we now use I would rather say complementary veterinary, because when we graduate from vet school, so in Belgium it's our 6 years of vet school, then I call myself an allopathic, so an Occidental veterinary medicine, schooled vet. And then I realized, 2 years after, like, something is missing. That's not what I want to do. Just symptom treat. There's much more to do, and I don't. Do we really need to be a vet sometimes to guide people with their animals? So I started to call myself integrative, because that was the word I thought that would fit the best to what I'm doing. It's integrating everything or you learn from other cultures, other medicines, so traditional medicines. And so I started to integrate it in my practice. And why would I say world? Is because I had the opportunity to study Mrug Ayurveda, so ethno-veterinary practices in India. And I started really my alternative, I have to say, my complementary career. I started it with Chinese medicine. So my Chinese medicine was also already integrated into my practice. So I like the word integrating because I put it in. I added on top of, I put it in my toolbox. And I would say 90% of the medicine around the world, those traditional medicine, will depend on the country they are, but they are 90% the same. They share the same root, the same way of thinking. So I was happy and I was lucky that I could see it, that every country has their medicine, even if it's codified, so written down or not, it has been shared over generations. And even if you're in India or in China, or even with the Mapuches in South America, you realize, oh, they think the same. They use the herbs that grow there, they use the food, they learn to observe. And that's why I started to call myself word integrative, because I could not stop just with one thing that I learned. So Chinese medicine, but then the Indian medicine came on top of it, and yes, that's how I.
Well, I think, Dr. Juliet, what we should do is get rid of there's so much confusion. I'm confused. There's so much confusion on functional, integrative, holistic, natural, alternative. Consumers confuse homeopathic. They think homeopathic means natural or holistic. So there's all these terms that I think we should just call them multiple toolbox veterinarians, because all of you say the same thing. You all say toolbox. You always say the same thing. And what's so cool is, like, anybody listening, if you think that holistic means woo-woo or, really in my country, we say granola, real natural, crunchy, or, hippie medicine, some people call it. That's funny for like a second. But the truth of the matter is that complicated problems, complex human and animal conditions require more than one tool. And, it's that expression, to the man with the hammer, everything appears to be a nail, or something like that. To the person with a screwdriver, everything looks like a screw, whatever you want to say. So if you have more tools at your disposal and you're able to see things in multiple dimensions and see around problems and say, this is probably more of a nutrition issue, or this might be meridian and acupuncture, or this could be chiropractic. Like, wouldn't you want somebody who has a greater perspective on your animal's health than less of a perspective? That's what this is.
That's it. And I think, Rob, you really resumed it much better than I do. So that's how I do. Like, I also did some chiropractic. So when I have to use it, I use it. So even us, we'd never stop learning, and we never stop also talk to other veterinarians. And I always say there's no better vet. There's the vet that suits the animal, and there's the vet that suits the owner. And every vet can have this, okay, I'm more interested in this tool in my toolbox, or I'm better with this tool in my toolbox. So can we put all those toolboxes together? And this is sometimes what happens to me. Oh, I don't know, but well, let's think about it. And being humble, saying, oh, I cannot, but he is really good in the IV treatment with vitamin C, for example, and he is really good in nutrition. Well, we can send them out. But sometimes I feel like I need to know it for myself too, even if I don't need it all the time. But I will combine to find a solution. Yeah, because
Yeah.
one screw doesn't fit. And that's how normal, I would say, what we learned at vet school, that allopathic, that occidental way of thinking. I always say it's like only 200 years old. But all those traditional older medicines, maybe just other countries like Chinese medicine, Indian medicine, is like 5,000 years old. And like we say, like, why would we not look into that too? Yeah.
Well, that's what our company Gussy's got is we're following a over 5,000-year-old recipe, the end, and it's worked for all sorts of stuff, and so tell me about your book. Like, why it's not easy to write a book at all. Like, why did you feel called to write this book? Like, what's the purpose of that?
Yeah, my book is really a small book for owners, not for vets. I went to India. I followed my husband for work, but that was also an opportunity, like, to say, like, okay, I want to know more about what's happening there. What's their way of seeing medicine? What do they have in their toolbox over there? Even if it's human related, you can always learn through human medicine, because we are also kind of animals. So I went to India, and there I met my first clients, because I could work as a consultant in India. And I was working with those vets who are Cambridge following protocols. They follow the Cambridge protocol, the really British protocol. And I came as a white vet, talking about that toolbox, having, we can use Indian medicine, we could use some Chinese medicine in there. So they were looking at me like, okay, it's not that they don't have it there, but most of them, they think they should not use it because they look to the West, to what we do in our medicine, that's the best. And then I came there as a white vet. Look, there's a neem tree in front of the clinic, let's take some leaves and then we crush them, and then we pound, how do you say, we put them simply in the food of your dog. And they would look at me like, oh no. So I started to realize, like, I should do something about it. And then my clients pushed me. So clients were happy about my work. Some of them had public relations in the newspapers and so on. So they started to interview me. And then some people say, like when you talk like in 3/4 of an hour. In your first consultations, you repeat most of the time the same introduction to who you are, why you are like this, what you recommend. And I said, like, I have to talk about the 5 secrets to be having a healthy pet, because a healthy pet makes a healthy owner. Because as how many times I didn't have an owner saying, oh, is that the same for us? Or through the pets, they became better themselves. We started to build the network of people who could help them. And so I started to make a little book, Healthy Dog, Happy You, for Indian pet owners. Because I also, for me, it was also cultural shock. Like, India, it's a roller coaster of emotions. I don't say you hate it or you love it. You can hate it and love it in one day. Was my 3.5 year, no, my 4 years in India. And so the book was really made for them, because I saw some, I had those real extreme vegan dogs there, and then they had tick fever disease. So tick ehrlichiosis and babesiosis. So ticks were eating the blood of these dogs. But I have to say, simply as a vet, I like to talk simply to my owners. A parasite most of the time comes to an animal that is dying, that is not in a good shape, or immunity is not there. I didn't think about it like this to talk about it, but when I saw so many dogs over there like this, I started to, maybe he's lacking blood. And then came my tool from the Chinese medicine, like, oh, what's giving blood? What's a blood to chew a tonifier in the food? And then I said, like, well, I need some meat in there. And so that's how I started to realize that I had to already, I had so much to change that I needed to write some simple advices down. Yeah, that's how the book started.
Wow. So these are dogs that are pets that are vegan by choice.
Yeah, by the owner.
By the owner. Okay. So, because I didn't know if they were, because I know, there's lots of dogs are scavengers and there's lots of wild dogs running all over.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't know if they were just going in trash cans or something.
They go, and if they find chicken, they would go for the chicken, and I
Yeah.
would go for the meat. That's why, yeah.
Yeah. So, is that because the owners are vegan or
Yeah,
it's money?
It's culture, it's religion. It's that's
Okay.
pure religion. Yeah.
Okay. So, is it safe to say you do not believe dogs should be vegan?
I don't believe. No. Yes.
Okay. I don't either. Okay.
No.
So, and then I am with you 100% on parasites. So, parasites I learned this from my vet early on. Parasites are opportunistic. They don't go onto a really healthy host.
No.
And that's a really, like, let me ask you this question. Does that mean any dog that has a parasite is sick or dying?
Not necessarily, no. But everything in every stage of life is to be in balance, or that's all about Chinese medicine, and those medicine is all of time is in being in balance. And we are not perfect when we are born. We have a constitution, we have predispositions too. So I would not say no. Not when you see a parasite, it means. But most of medicine too, even allopathic medicine, has caused like a deficiency, can do some harm. So that's, I would say, they are not predisposed to, but we have influenced it. We have changed the environment. We have been influencing their immunity too. Yeah.
Well, I agree with you. I believe that if a tick, we'll just use a tick right now, is on your dog, I see it. I don't worry about it and freak out about it, but I see it almost as a diagnostic.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You go, okay, what's going on that this tick would want to prey on my dog? Because these ticks are brilliant. They're dumb as nails, but they are instinctually brilliant.
Yes.
I mean, it's kind of amazing what that I could probably get into a whole show on ticks and how they survive and how they, that they're opportunistic. So they're not fast. So they just hang around, and then they smell something walking by, and they're like, yeah, let's go. And then they move pretty quick once they get on the animal. But early on, I had a dog. My first dog, famously, came to me as a puppy, somewhat sick. And that's when I met Dr. Billinghurst and Dr. Marty Goldstein and Bob Goldstein. And it took a while for him to, he had a tick early on, or maybe he had like two, or I think he had I feel like he had maybe two or three even, because it really freaked me out. It scared me. And then nothing. After it took a while for him to get on a raw diet and everything. And I never used any flea topical or oral or flea or tick, nothing. And I'm scared to use those. So that's a really interesting thing that you just brought up, the ticks. If people get ticks, it's a good indication that maybe you need to, well, first you should look at the diet. What would you say?
Yeah. Immunity comes from the gut. That's why I say, and I have to say, like most of the time people tell me, what are you? I'm in the World Integrative Veterinary. I like to say I'm a field vet. What I like is to see it on the field. So I had my practical experience there in India. I would not talk like this if I didn't have that experience in India. It's just something that popped up to me, the ticks and fleas, when I changed their diets, and already just doing my best trying to get meat in the street of these religious people, and to say, like, your dog doesn't choose a religion. I understand your religion. I have nothing against it, but for your dog, it's important. And then I saw these dogs, and you see these dogs years later, and they are perfectly fine. I don't say that ticks don't come to them anymore, but they don't have the same consequences anymore because those big, So practical experience led me to that. Yes.
Wow. Do you think that all dogs can be tick-free naturally?
I would love to, but again, I think we are already trying as a vet nutritionist and DCM nutrition. I try to push them already in the right direction with food. It's a daily, not combat, but sometimes it's a daily trying. People come to me. That's why I started to write the nutrition TCM course, because people come to me and then they don't come to me for nutrition, but I pop it up out of my toolbox. And then you see them, ooh, wow, they're not ready, because it's much easier that people out of the bag and, who thinks about food, they don't have the time for them. So I would say all dogs can be, yes. But even if we're on the best diets, there are environmental influences. And I always say, even the source, like you say, Gussy's gut is made there where you will distribute it. You don't send it over to the other side, and unless you could make it here and you overseas, and unless you can make it here, it's because the ecosystem, what is living in the soil is going into the herb, is going into the formula, and this is what is making the gut immunity strong and feeding, well, what we all say, those little bugs and parasites that are inside the microbiome. So
Yeah.
then I think that's where you say, if everybody could have like a really good supplement like that, then I think it would be possible. But for the moment, I don't say everyone can. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah, I'm glad you said the biome of the soil, because microbiome of the soil, because I mean, I think that's a thing that's people are just becoming aware of, that
Mm-hmm.
there is this. It's crazy to think about, like, there's a very direct correlation to what's under the soil, not just what we see, but under it, all the microbes that live, all the minerals, everything translates into that food.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times, even if we cook it, it's still, there's so much magic that we do not know what happens. I don't waste a lick of time wondering about all this magic that we haven't yet discovered. What I do is go back to basic first principles, and it's give me the absolute best soil grown or raised on top of really good soil, like animals,
Yeah.
my meat source, and let the rest of the magic just happen. I don't even have to think about it. And so, and that, the other thing, Dr. Juliet, isn't it horrible what we've done to ourselves we've traded convenience for health.
Exactly.
And, yeah. And, I'm getting now to the point where I believe that the key to success in life, and I don't mean business, money, success, I mean being happy and fulfilled and successful in life, is really about the lack of comfort, the discomfort. And, I tell people, people who ask my advice, should I do this business? Should I work on this? Should I do this? Should I move physical location? And all these decisions are about, choosing your misery, choosing your struggle, because we all have struggles. We all have misery. And it's a matter of the misery you can tolerate.
Yes.
And the more you can be resilient, and and now we're seeing people are going into cold plunges and saunas, and and they're doing high intensity interval exercising, and that's stressful and it's uncomfortable. Certainly weight training and all of that.
Yeah.
These are physical versions of that. We're finding out these things are incredibly magical, and we don't even know fully why they work the way they do, but people's blood tests come out better. And so my dogs do get high intensity interval training. They get fasted. So we practice this thing called hormesis, which is discomfort. I'd like you to discuss hormesis and what you think about animals. So I'm with you on this. I think that, the convenience of a bag of food, it's cheaper and it's faster, but there is a huge cost. And just be clear, if you do it, just be clear what that cost is, and that you're taking that calculation. It's fine. I don't even judge you. I mean, if that's what you need to live your life and be happy, great. There are costs, and you should be clear on those.
And that's my job, actually. That's why also the book came out. I'm like it's not a vet, it's a coach. It's you pay me for my opinion, and I have to be good that I learn from the great people like Ian and like Martin Goldstein. I learned from them. So I was reading, I had my medical background. So my job is to, be the in between there. So if I esteem that is better for your animal, well, the choice is up to you at the end. But I can say no after years of practice. That's why it's nice to get older. For one thing, I have to say is that you can base yourself on those practical experiences. Yeah, and gray hair, not yet, but I have to say. And when I was traveling, that's what I was seeing, because you learn from the older people. So the women were learning to their children, to their daughters, to how to cook, not only how to cook, but to gather herbs, to put it all together depending on the season, how to heal when there was a little imbalance going on. That's the nice thing. So simple things, but in all those cultures, the thing I learned about is that people knew just how to do, and we have no technology that will help us to realize why we would do it. But they just did things that I said, no, that's impossible. Like fasting, for example, when I saw the animals fasting, it was just logic. They were good, and they were just not saying, oh, we have to feed them, or they are feeling sick. We just should, but he's fasting, let him fast. Could we do that? Even then reproduce them to a healthy animal? Yes. So all of these things are really interesting, to discuss.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting. What are your thoughts on hormesis in animals?
I like it. We have nice results. I personally cannot accompany them good enough, but I would suggest it. Yes.
Yeah. And can you give us some? I want to learn from you. Maybe there's some things that I haven't thought of, and I would be very interested in incorporating into my dog's hormesis lifestyle, or the mix of hormesis that I have going on. What would you consider, if you had a willing client, what would you consider different methods of hormesis, or challenging the system so it gets more resilient and stronger?
For me, the one of the things to do in hormesis is, for me, really simple. I'm really simple because I have clients who cannot afford new technologies, for example. But fasting is one of the easiest to do with a dog. So that's a cheap one. For me, when we go into hormesis, I want something affordable. Okay, so the fasting is really important for me. That intermittent fasting, at least for a dog, I have like 16 hours sometimes in between two meals. Also once a week, I could say like, oh, that's 24 hours. I like also the extreme cold and hot differences when people go out and they say like, okay, even after fasting, for example. Now winter is coming in Belgium, and now those days of fasting, people go out and make them, work out in a colder climate. That's really interesting. If I have access to the molecules, well, then we can go into herbs and whatever. But the simple.
Awesome.
Just simple advice. Yes.
That's great. Well, and even I think and now it's different for all dogs and breeds, but even within breeds, different dogs, the certain vegetables can be hormetic, right?
Yes.
We don't, I don't think we have access to testing that can prove that, but if you're, some vegetables that have like, so there's a lot we get a lot of customers that come to us and ask, on our first version of Daily, our main formula, Gussy's got, we had some higher oxalate, things like spinach,
Yeah.
regular kale, et cetera, et cetera. We got rid of those because some people were super concerned about them. So I switched to lacinato kale. We took out the spinach. We replaced it with some other things that are. So this is super low oxalate, which is fine. We might come out with a high oxalate formula at some point just for fun, just just for hormetic. But Dr. B's opinion of that was, well, too much of anything's a horrible thing usually. And, we understand like this is some people really have studied this anti-nutrient thing that oxalates have. But we think in small amounts, it actually provides benefit. And it turns out that I've talked to lots of really genius human nutritionists. They think the same thing. But if all you're eating every day is like a ton of spinach and stuff, well, yeah, I mean, that might not be the best thing for you. And why would you do that?
Yeah, no, that's the thing. So when people come also with the diet or an advice to me, I will also advise, I will look to the source of protein, and from a Chinese point of view, if it's heating, if it's warming, is it neutral, is it tonifying the yin, the yang? So actually, I could say that hormesis, I would like, yeah, that's a new Occidental term. I would say like, I think the Chinese, they did it already, and even in Ayurveda, we were certain periods of time we could like increase, for example, beans, for example. Oh, that's too high in phosphor for an animal, for example. I don't say we need that, but I could have a bean diet for a while in a dog just to clean out. Okay, do I feed beans all the time? No, I'm for the raw diet. I'm from the healthy diet, rotation. I will keep on rotating. I won't keep on rotating with 5-6 different animal species. For me, it will be, is that beef grass fed, grass finished? That is for me the most important. And then I will often say, like, people put in so many supplements, and I say, like, just go to the basics first. Take a little bit of time. So that even pushing the system to make a new gut microbiome can be just to be a little bit over what the animal actually needs for a longer time. And then see, okay, I can just add in this, or after a month, we give it a break. But you can, that's why I say, like, I prescribe kale. I prescribe the little bit of vegetables that we have in the diet proportion, and people just say, no, I cannot, I would never do that, that's what we hear around. Okay, I say, like, just do it. Okay, and then they see, oh, my animal is actually much better. Yeah. So
I mean, if you told me, if you were my vet and you told me, let's put Gus on like 2 days of beans, I would say, whoa, why? And if you said to me, well, it's because of it's high in this and that, and this is what it'll do, I'd be like, I'm in 100%. Let's do it tomorrow. Which ones do I buy? And I think that like food as medicine and food as triggers, that they trigger metabolic processes, enzymatic processes. Boy, I mean, there's so many parallels to human and pet nutrition that, like, I'm convinced that most of the ills of human and animal, or pet, we'll say pets, human and pet disease and illness is a lack of something. Then, and also then when I mean nutrients, really a lack of nutrients, minerals, just to start with, just minerals. And then with regards to the things that there's too much in them, it would be like, medications, pharmaceutical, we'll say pharmaceutical category, toxins, and when you talk about doing things that are low cost, I so appreciate that, because you do not, to have a healthy animal, you do not have to do anything that costs money. Like, you could actually, I believe, this is my personal opinion, I think you could probably even feed the worst kibble ever. And I know that some people will cringe on this. But if you gave pure water, low, minimal medications, you ran and sprinted your dog often, especially the exercise, and you got them out into nature, and you fasted them once a week, like, you have a chance at a amazingly, because the liver and the kidneys and all these
Yeah.
things are doing their cleansing processes. But God help you if you have that really bad diet and your dog's sedentary and your dog is bored or depressed and lives in a skyscraper, doesn't ever go out in nature, doesn't fast, doesn't exercise well. That's a recipe for disaster.
And that's what we see, like those dogs you just represent, they go and they have the soil probiotics, the probiotics out of the soil, just even because they're going to scratch something in the forest or in the prairie, they get it in their gut microbiome. So even if that really bad kibble is going in there, there's still competition going in.
Right.
They are earthing, they are getting back to the ground, they drink living water, they go maybe drinking in the source. They get the acidity in the stomach again because they gonna get some, I don't know, whatever little dirty animal, how do you say that is dying, they can have it if they're healthy. That acidity in the stomach will do the rest, but get that acidity in there. So
well, I mean, for millions of years they've been scavengers. We like to think of our dogs being more fancy and elevated and posh, depending on what part of the world you're living in. You can apply a different label to them, but they're total opportunists and they're omnivores. Like cats are. Do you agree? Cats are mostly all carnivore, pretty much.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Except for the gut of a mouse that may have who knows what in it.
Fermented vegetables. The mouse has done the job. And I always say, that's Judy Morgan who learned me this. Put the mouse in your blender, and that's the best diet for your cat. And even if I tell this to owners, and they look at me like, but yeah. So, but in the mouse you have everything. You have the organ meat, you have the bones, you have the manganese in the skin, you have that Franken prey diet. So that's the wonderful thing. My cat, at night, poof, she's out, get some mice. You want some food? Well, no, go hunting a little bit.
You really got me with the blender thing. I would give I don't have cats, but if I had cats, I would totally give them live or dead mice. But the blender thing, that's where I would, if I had to own a dog that I gave him a blendered mouse, I probably wouldn't have dogs. I just don't think I could do that. Or I'd have to find a company that I could buy it and I could peel off the thing and throw it and then I'd have to do something, because that's where I draw the line. I can handle
but I agree. And I actually, that's why some owners we tried and we find solutions, even in the raw feeding, we try to find prepared in the nice proportions. That's also, I had to go to there, because when I was prescribing the raw proportions, not everybody's following it, and then the sources we find, you go to the big supermarket, okay, I like it to have it simple, but then if it's bleached chicken or whatever, it's not better, and that's I always try to find a solution. So I'm actually a guide. I see people again and again, and something they come out with a sheet of paper and simple advice. You have this in your kitchen, so add these herbs in there, or okay, no, change maybe the source of meat, or could you for a few weeks try to find maybe a more expensive meat, but at the end you will send me only Christmas card. That's what I want. I want to do Chinese medicine. I want to play in prevention, and then everything we get add in, and people come to me, should that be interesting? If I don't know, well, I will ask, does a colleague does it, or I will read about it. So that's why we never stop learning.
I mean, and how does somebody know, like somebody coming new to raw, they go to the store, they buy the bleached tripe, and they don't know, they think that's the way it should look, but it's been bleached, and like that kind of defeats the whole purpose. Then you just have this dead tissue that's like, there's no beneficial. But real tripe stinks to high heaven.
Yeah,
and really, really great tripe is grass fed, and it's got grass in it.
Yeah,
it's disgusting. When I started with Dr. Billinghurst, when he advised me on my first dog as an adult, I was sourcing cow brain, and
for the omega-3s.
Yeah, it's nasty, but I did it. I stepped out and I just did it. and I probably had a face the whole time. Like I can't even control it. You just make a face. And, say any of the vegans, listening, I love these vegans who do what's best for their
Yeah,
dog.
for the
Even though
dog.
they don't eat it, they feed it, they touch it.
Mhm.
Some of them are, they have to wear gloves because they just can't deal with it. And
Yeah.
God bless these people,
Mhm.
because they're applying the same logic to their dogs that they are for themselves, which is they believe they're being a vegan
Yes.
for their health. And
That helped. Yeah.
yeah, and this is what this animal needs for its health. And I think those people are brilliant.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, it is
That's
amazing. And so anyway, I just want to go back to this free thing that people can do. This is I would just love this to be the whole topic of this podcast, because it is so within your power to do things that do not cost any money and can have radically impactful
mhm.
benefits in your pet's health. You don't have to buy Gussy's gut. You don't have to buy raw food. You could, and it would be great, but you don't have to do any of those things. Just have an advocate that's got DVM at the end of their name. Do you guys do DVMs at the end of your name in
Yeah.
Belgium?
Yeah, I mean, we still have the right to say doctor, but like Germany, they have to do a postgrad. It's a doctorate. How do you say? I don't know. They have to do
Yeah.
a thesis, a bigger thesis after. So in Belgium, we can. I don't know if it has changed, but mostly we're DVM. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So whatever the initials are that make them a veterinarian,
Mm-hmm.
have an advocate that has a veterinary, they're a doctor, they're a veterinarian,
Yes.
on your side, because and you can do this from, do you do remote sessions? Do you do remote calls and all that, like virtual?
I do, but I still like to palpate the animal, to
Of course.
smell the animal, to feel the animal, to watch the animal. And yeah, I have to say, from a Chinese point of view, I need to touch my back shoes, my pearls, my tongue. But I'm now out of India since 3 years, and I do still have sessions with my clients there. Well, I can advise on food. That's the only thing I can do, and I actually make them really great that they know, oh, Juliet, season is changing, or there's a bit of humidity in the air. Do I change the source of my meat? So that's why I started teaching too. It's just I like to share that, and when I do the acupuncture practicals, I say we can do these combination of points. It's not cookbook. They still have to palpate, make their Chinese diagnosis, and then I start. Okay, we could add some food on there, so they already know. Oh, Juliet, when is your food therapy course going on? Because they follow and they say like, okay, that's why I like it, because as a vet, you can use food as a diagnosis. Like my animal goes for that food, or why is he eating soil out of in the garden? Why is he going for the zucchini? Why is he? So it's really important to make that too, and I give those simple tools to the other vets, and I like to be a little colibri. The more vets I can teach them this, the better is and easier is to the bigger vet community that is out there,
Yeah.
and that doesn't has this opinion. So that's the hardest thing. So which clients do I have? These are most of the time the owners, through other owners. They say like, oh, if you don't know anymore, just go to see Juliet. She will guide you. And they don't ask me to have those nice kilocalorie calculator with the synthetic selenium and zinc in there. They just know, yeah, Juliet, if she says that there must be beetroot in there, she knows why. Because the beetroot contains this. Do I really have to know what's in my beetroot and how much I have to feed them? Yes, I will follow proportion, because I have a omnivore carnivore in front of me and I don't have a human in front of me. But it's that really those toppings. A dog today came and I said like, I know, just continue to feed your feeding, because I know and I felt that owner would not like to change. It was impossible. And I said like, just please go out with these toppings, please, only 50 grams a day, and try to put my Chinese herbs on there, because for me Chinese herbs are concentrated food.
Yep.
to have a little bit of more power. That's the, with your kettle, that I always say. And then they got out with like 50 gram, and I was talking about algae, and I was talking about, like what was I talking about? Other vegetables and seasonal thing, and they said like, oh yeah, right. And then some sesame paste and tahini, and okay, but I mean, it's not the big portion. I don't make a complicated diet out there, and I say like, it won't change again. But that's the simple thing. And I have to say, in the beginning also was hard to me to believe that this just simple power of food could change something, but it is just, yeah, amazing. Or dogs you can't touch because they come in there and they are aggressive, and I feel like, yeah, okay, again, it's really nice, but maybe it's aggressive because, like
Liver.
the Japanese say, most of disease, the origin of disease is emotion. 80% of disease is emotion that stagnates and is coming back there. Dog doesn't go out of his apartment. All that can accumulate, gets into toxins in the body. So let's change that. And then I change the food, and then they come back like a few months later and say, oh, my dog is completely changed. Now you can put the needles in there. So, yeah.
Well, my doctor, who's a genius, a great guy, known for a very long time. He would joke when we'd have dinner, and he'd say, I'm going to create a liver detox that I call road rage, anti-road rage, or no more road rage, because for a lot of people, it's a source of anger.
Yeah.
When I learned that, I thought, oh, that kind of stuff, like just over time, has really cracked my mind open in realizing that there's these mechanisms that happen that there's very little that we know. I mean, I just feel like, in America, we used to do this thing called home economics,
Mm-hmm.
and it would teach you like the basics of life. Like, I think we should really have like how your body works, um, required courses, just some basic things, and learn like even just that there are correlations and there are connections that you want to be able to at least be open to having and thinking, because I think there's so many people out there walking that they're totally convinced, like if you just eat dead crappy food but you pile on things on it, like a
Yeah.
pill, like
Mm-hmm.
even a really bad quality supplement, you're going to be fine, because
Mm-hmm.
it's just the way that we're raised by, industries
Yeah.
to like, well, this will save you. This will be the thing that saves you. Forget the good food, buy this thing, and it's genius, model if you're an evil, if you're, an evil person, but it's getting people to be thinking in this pharmaceutical model of, patching things up, but
It's again a little bit like that symptom treatment. You
yeah,
lack it. Nutritionists often do, like human nutritionists, they take bloods. Okay, you lack this and this, but we can fill up this supplement. That's why Dr. Billinghurst sent you out to get brain for the dog, because I can supplement omega-3s in whatever way to my dog too. Yeah, sometimes I have to find a solution to the brain, I have to say. But then you try to find again, can I go for the whole sardine, or is that better than the oil, and we have to learn about this so we can teach our clients, or so it's really important that people know this. That's why my simple comes back. So sometimes I just say, like, just cut to a good source, whatever you can get, even if it's just this will already change you much more than to buy this and this supplement that I even don't know. There's so many companies out there. Or go for a supplement that is a real supplement. So
yeah.
yeah, that's why.
Wow. How do you think about, like, can you simplify for the average person why you would gravitate towards a TCVM diet versus an Indian, Ayurvedic diet?
Mhm.
Um, like, how do you think of those two? I'm confused on those two things. Like, they're similar, but they use similar things sometimes, but not always. Like,
No.
how do you think of this? How do you sort, like,
In Ayurveda, the power of food is probably for me now even more powerful than the food therapy and Chinese medicine, you would say. Even though I use more my Chinese food therapy, the basic principles about tonifying the yin, tonifying the blood, moving the qi, all those Chinese terms.
Which is
In
great.
Ayurveda, to have a real good Ayurvedic diet, I could do that in India. And that's my main thing that I would say why I use less my Ayurveda and my Mrug Ayurveda here in Belgium. It's because I cannot find the same substances. There in India, I could be much more vegan than I'm here in Belgium, climate wise, and that's why I use those principles that come back in Ayurveda too. We are the microcosmos, so our body is the microcosmos and the macrocosmos. So we eat what's around us. That's why I would say all those traditional medicines are the same root, but it's you have to use where you live. Like I would say, go for Celtic medicine here in Belgium. Go back to, okay, which trees do we have? Which herbs do we have? How were we eating? So in between TCM and Ayurveda, I don't choose, but I always have for pet owners, I always say like, okay, this is all the processed food there. Okay, everything you can have from the kibble to even the canned and, you know, what we would say better kibble and better canned. And on the other side, you have the fresh food. And I have to say, for me, the fresh food, I adapted to Chinese principles, even Ayurvedic principles with Vata, Pitta, doshas, and all of those terms. If I can find the products, if I can source the vegetables they mainly use in Ayurveda, for human it's easier because you lose kind of a lot of grains, and the way of preparing the grains in Ayurveda is really interesting. So for dogs, I realized that I use more the diagnosis, how we diagnose in Ayurveda, to adapt it then to the sources of meat I have here, the sources of vegetables I have here.
Yeah.
But yeah.
If you advised a client who said, look, I have 3 big dogs, or I have 1 big dog, or
Mhm.
doesn't matter what it is, that I can't afford to feed them an all meat diet or meat with some vegetables, would you recommend getting the calories in from like things like sprouted grains and things like that? Like how would
Yes.
you spread that budget out?
Same. It's hard. I have to say, I can do that. I will add a bigger proportion in the carbs, even if I don't like that for the
Yeah.
lactobacillus and all the we know that probiotics.
Yeah.
So it's hard. So then sometimes I rather go and try to find freeze dried or even better kibble that still has a good amount of meat in there. You know, I go for the
Yeah.
brands that I could recommend rather than to go, because often I have to go too high in carbohydrates, even though grains or no grains. I can go for the under the ground vegetables, like I would say, so the tubercles and so
Tubers.
on,
Yeah.
tubers. But it's still too much. And if I have a healthy dog, I can do that for a while, and it maybe has to do again with putting the body to an extreme. But I
Yeah.
feel in the long term I cannot do that. No. So then sometimes I would say to those owners, we do it for a while. We try to have when, you know, for here the hunting season is going on. So I try to say to people, okay, get a bigger freezer. We find whatever is there. When there's a promotion going on in the supermarket, we try to find it. Sometimes I go for the cheaper, how do we say, pre-made barf diets.
Yeah.
I would rather go there than still to increase my carbohydrates. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, and you're bringing up some really good ideas for me on the fly here. Like you could even go to cheaper cuts like tongue or,
Yeah.
you know, tripe or whatever. Depends on your area and time of year and all that stuff. But also the other idea you gave me, I always forget, is if it were me and I said, okay, you know, I have Labradors, they're pretty big. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to start figuring out a way to make contact with some hunters,
Yeah.
and they're not in the business of selling their meat. Maybe
No,
they'll sell to me for $2 a pound elk meat.
I
And
know.
and by the way, like that's a superior meat I think like alive, like, hunted,
Yeah.
like that's crazy good meat.
Even in Chinese medicine, we will say, what have you been feeding off? We now know that most of the animals are fed in the middle of the forest. That's not better, but it's a solution. I have to say, it's a real solution, a practical solution. Because I have to say, I tried it with higher carbs, and even if they're nice, low, how do you say, the tubers in
Slicing it.
there and the fermented, but the fermented vegetables and even grains, it's just always the gastronomic little topping on it.
A
If I
little bit.
have to go too high on it, it's not worth. In India, I tried to increase with the paneer, so the cottage cheese, for example.
Yeah.
I had the tofu, I have the tempeh. I tried much more of the moong dal, so the mungo beans. So I had more of the legumes. Yeah, it worked. I have to say that lowered the price, but it's a big proportion. So even the eggs in the diet, then I would say, like, you do half paneer, half eggs. It was a lot of eggs for that dog, but that could lower the dose. I had the ghee in there. I had but I always try to have the animal stuff. There. So on that, I try to find the ghee. If I had tofu and paneer in their diet, I added up that clarified butter. I would try to find the raw milk butter for yeah.
Well,
It,
you're also you're perfectly ending on the thing I was going to bring up again, which is fat. You could just go possibly a little bit heavier fat, so it could be, whole raw milk would be interesting. But also, and again, this all just depends on what you have access to
yeah.
easily and readily and cheaply.
Goat milk for the
Goat,
taurine.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
Okay,
even like, if you get, really good quality coconut oil, or,
mhm.
I got some biodynamic olive oil just 2 days ago, and I just threw like 2 tablespoons in his food. I'm like,
Rotation. The
great.
omega 3 oil, yeah, Italian, will give your omega 9. Okay, at that moment the dog hasn't had his other omega essential as fatty acids to balance. But that's holistic, that's the rotation diet. That's why I say, oh, you can have some hemp oil on it, and you can have some, sesame seed oil on there. I had some gingerly oil in India, and I learned about all those oils. For me, it's not all about every day the same thing, and to be sure everything in there. Because for me, I learned also, like, if you think about the wolves, when they don't have enough calcium, for example, the moment they have more than enough, they will take whatever they need, and they will. So it's more like a surviving. If you make the body at some point having less of what they need, but it's from a natural source,
Yeah.
the moment they will get it, they will use it. So that olive oil can be beneficial even if we don't know, because I didn't test it. But yeah.
Yeah. No, it's so true. The other thing I was thinking, when you earlier on, you mentioned, trying to achieve a balanced diet every meal, is, I think we have enough brilliant people and experts that are saying that's not the way to go, because what's happening is, you're not biologically appropriately feeding your dog. Your dog doesn't eat by a
No.
spreadsheet. Wolves don't eat by spreadsheet. They feast in famine. Depending on the hierarchy, they get the really nutrient dense, say, organs,
Yeah.
and some don't. Some
No.
get, some are screwed. They just get like fur and some
Yeah.
bone,
Mm-hmm.
and then, so I'm so glad that when I started feeding my dogs, the non-processed food, which is pretty much, I think I fed my first dog, like the best kibble. I put this in quotation marks, like for 2 weeks, and then I realized I had to cure him through better nutrition. And I'm so glad that I didn't get, like, I don't know, brainwashed or indoctrinated into this paint by numbers, uh, formulaic thing. Because, I mean, we don't do that to our kids. We don't, even with these food pyramids, nobody's feeding. Even if the food pyramids were correct, and I don't think they are, but even if they were, you're not going to have like, oh my gosh, did you get the bottom part, the biggest part of the pyramid today? We have to give you more of this.
Yeah.
That's not how we eat.
It's like I say, I don't feed my 4 kids cereals fortified in vitamin D and B, and I'm happy. I sleep on my both ears. No, I can't. I won't give them cereals fortified. But that's what people believe. It's written on there. We don't mind if it's synthetic or not, and they are happy. People believe, okay, I'm not okay. I will say, like, is it a natural source? Is there variety in there? Well, I still have my pizza. I have my French fries here in Belgium at some days, but other days I will have my fresh food. And that's what I want people to realize. And I make people realize, don't be so on the kilocalories. And, a tomato grown on aquaponics won't have the same FIDIA concentrations in there as a tomato grown on a permaculture soil. And then people look at you like, oh, okay, that's maybe too scientific already. But we realize how many people just don't know this. And it's maybe the first thing I say to people. Getting into something that is perfectly in theory perfect, no. We have to.
That's really interesting. A very, very interesting way to look at. I'm always thinking like, what is a paradigm? I'd rather teach a paradigm. Like it's that whole, teach people to fish. You teach them to, what is that? You teach them to eat forever. Don't give them a fish. Give them a fish. You feed them for a day. Teach them a fish. You feed them for life. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah. So I prefer to teach people how to fish or think, ways to think. So my friends on the podcast, everybody I meet, I just prefer to do that. And I think of everything as, this is the way my brain works. I think of them in tiers. So I think of like nasty tier as the bottom and God tier. I call it, God tier. And like, what is so it's in every category. If it's like vegetables or meat or, supplements or anything I'm thinking about, that's what I think about. And there's tiers of everything, there's, from when you think of produce from, conventional to organic to biodynamic to regenerative, and in meat, there's jacked up with hormones and antibiotics and then no antibiotics, but it has hormones, then no antibiotics and hormones, and then fake,
even cloned, fake.
Fake free range. It just gets like, it has access to outdoors, but not really. No. And then there's like organic that maybe not treated so well, and then there's regenerative that's treated well on healthy soil, eating healthy tips of grass and moved all over. I mean, but that's a lot of tiers, and you get to choose what those are, and it's for everybody to make their own decision. But, it just takes an educated public, and that's what is the education is always the challenging thing,
I think so. But people don't have to feel bad. We are there to inform. What out of experience about what we've seen, the results we got into practice, and that's what I was saying you before, Rob. I teach, but I keep on my practice next to it because it's through my practical experience on the field that I will be able to share what's coming out. Okay. Yeah. Even in India, did I have to know those scientific proof that, for example, holy basil would do this, and there is so much of everything in there? No. Oh, they use it and they use so much of it. They take a hand out of it and the cow was not sick anymore. That's for me proof enough. Yeah. So that's really the way to go, I think. Educate and share.
The best way is when you think of health and you think of your your animals, you don't actually have to study this stuff. You don't even have to read books. You just have to work with a great, talented, brilliant person that, and you don't go to Dr. Juliet unless you're ready for serious health. And, go seek out if you want to go a conventional path, go get a conventional veterinarian. But if you want somebody who you'll follow their advice, it's like a coach, it's like
Yes.
a personal trainer, that tells you what exercises in what order, how many reps, how many sets, and then what to eat afterwards. You get results. So just find really good people, and I'd say go beyond YouTube videos and lives. Whether it's a live Facebook or whatever, those are really good, but you should really engage with them in a consultation. That's my 2 cents in my opinion, is get with a really good ally who's an advocate for your pet's health, and just do what they say. That's it.
And we make the network for the owner. That's our job. That's why I find out I have to learn from the best to be better myself and to give the best advice out there, because that's why I say on the net there's so much out there. But that's why I'm glad that people like you are doing podcasts to spread it out and to give that advice. We need that too, but to build that network and make us stronger compared to what is out there too, that helps a lot. So people are okay, it's not just one person out there that is doing something different. There are actually more people thinking about like this. Yes.
Yeah, podcasts, ours, any of them, they should be to inspire and ignite ideas and thoughts. To treat or to hear something and treat yourself is not the way to go. Not the way to go. Or your animal. You can be inspired and you can take that information and bring it to your qualified veterinarian or healthcare professional for your pet. But I highly recommend, I mean, there's no way in a podcast we could know your dog and your dog and your dog and your dog. You can't. It's, everything is super unique. And unfortunately, that's just the way it is. And, it'd be great if there was this one size fits all, but it just isn't. Yeah, it's just no way. So get an ally, get an advocate. We have so many people coming to our customer support that, they say we're in rural America or wherever, and they don't have access to a great holistic vet. All you need to do is pick up the phone or get on a Zoom call.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah. So Dr. Juliet, this has been so great. So everybody go to it's dr-juliet.com. And then your book is on Amazon?
It's on Amazon, yes, different platforms. It's getting. I only had 3 kids at that moment, but yeah, it's there. So it's really for pet owners, more specifically for Indian pet owners. So I know in the United States we had a few of the Indian pet owners who were looking at it, and it's really simple advice and more about my life. Yeah, it's also to inspire. It's not to teach and not to say what is better. Yeah, no, it's taking part of my consultation into words in the book. Yeah.
Great. Well, and it's for any Indian pet owners, please pick up. It's Healthy Pet, Happy You.
Yeah, Healthy Dog, Happy You. Healthy Dog, Happy You. Okay. I think I have one here. Yeah, it's there. Okay.
Oh, I love it.
It's Healthy Dog, Happy You. That's the one.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah. All right. Well, was that your Labrador?
No, that was one. That's a puppy Cooper. Like I have to say, Indian owners, they also want breeds they don't have there. And that was Nacho. This is another client dog. But Cooper was a puppy that came to me. And like those dogs, they don't cope too much with the Chennai climate weather. It was really hot. So you have a golden there. So there was a puppy that actually I followed from little to being a healthy puppy and to prevent any, also with the gold bead implants, any arthrosis problems. And then Nacho was a street dog that has been adopted, and that also was good. So it's to show that both can be there. Yeah.
What did you say? What was the word you said? Did you say implants?
Yeah, that's the gold bead implants, for example, in how do we say, in chronic osteoarthrosis and so on. Yeah.
What kind
it's a technique. It's a little bead of gold. It's 24K gold that is put in acupuncture points or around acupuncture points, if I want to use them around articulations where there's, like we call it in Chinese medicine, is already bony D. There's a deformation of the bone. There's osteophytes there. There is, so osteoarthritis is going on, and so it prevents the osteoarthrosis from going further. So I always say, when the leg, or when the animal, the articulation wants to become a pirate leg, that's most of the time where there's too much of movement. And chiropractics, we know, we will move the lazy student of the class, so we make sure that regularly the lazy one gets a kick in the how do you say, in the ass, to make sure that the other parts of the body don't have to work too much. That's the first thing. But then when they have to work, at some point the body just can't take it anymore, and then we have those, parrot beaks coming over. Is it a cause or a consequence? Often is a consequence, because the body just says, like, stop, I don't want to move so much anymore, it's friction and whatever. So gold bead implants are a way of doing acupuncture in these cases, yes.
Wow.
And when there are bony spurs, etc.
That's a new one for me. I've never, ever heard of that. That's amazing.
Okay.
Well, it's such a pleasure to meet you and to chat with you. I mean, I had such a fun conversation that we'll have to do this again. I just feel like we didn't really have an agenda on this call.
No,
no, it just overflowed. So we're going to do this again, to be sure. But I just got to say, like, if anybody's watching and you're at a crossroads, or you're at your wit's end even, please just spend some energy to find good people to surround yourself with, a healthcare team that you can trust, even if you feel like there's some sticker shock, like, whatever that could be for you. If it's several $100s for a consult, what I want you to think about is what it will save you in speed of recovery, healing, imagine just going months and months and months and months and months with an illness or an injury or a disease, and going through one disappointment after another. Time is not on your side when it comes to being, ill or diseased or in a state of dis-ease. So get somebody good that you can rely on. It doesn't have to be hard on you. You don't have to learn everything. You don't have to read books.
No.
I met Dr. Billinghurst. I was told to read his book first. I said, I don't have time to read his book. It'll take me like 4 weeks. I'm not letting my dog suffer for 4 weeks. So I did phone consults with him.
Yeah.
And believe me, the money you spend will cost you more on the back end. So, get really good people around you, because it will change your world. It will, and it's the gift you need, because you want to care for your dog so well, or your cat.
Yes.
Yeah. So Dr. Juliet, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much for being with us, and look forward to having you on again.
Thank you, Rob. Pleasure for me too. Nice to meet you.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Watch this long, and also subscribe to us.